What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Spot Show podcast. This is, of course, an independent wrestling podcast with a few pit stops along the way. I'm your host, Jim Mint 10, Dickie Wabash, and joining me this week is Kidd Riot. I don't have a nickname for you, dude. That's why I paused.
I was going to say, I was waiting to see where you were going.
It used to be NVW champion, and then you lost that. And then I was going to be like Rudo Riot himself. And then I was like, well, no, I don't know. We'll need to figure that out. Because look, V's got formerly fabulous. Oliver's got 12 different nicknames. Madrox is the one-legged wonder. I'm Jim Mint 10. So we're really going to need to figure out one for you, dude, as time goes on. Time goes on. I think it's one of those things. Here's the thing about a nickname. It's got to just come natural. You can't force it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely right.
Cannot force it at all. Well, this is going to be an interesting episode of Spot Show. Typically, we come on Spot Show and we like to have fun. You know, we like to joke around and we like to have a good time and we like to bring some light into, honestly, a very dark world, whether that world is just the real world or the world of independent wrestling. But today's going to be a little bit more serious, I think. And to kick that off, let me just say, we've entered another era of Dickie Wabash, and I am officially KT Tape Dickie. Because, as we've talked about, I've been having trouble with my bicep, and I've started using KT tape. And oh my God, has it really actually started helping me?
I've never used KT tape in my entire life.
3 people suggested it to me, and I was like, hey, 1 person, okay, 2 people, but 3. Once you start getting to that 3-person area, you're like, yeah, maybe I should really look into this. But no, I jest, of course. Listen, I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. This podcast might get a little heavy. This podcast might get a little deep. If that is not what you have signed up for, I totally get that. If you want to just wait till next week when we come back on here and make poo-poo pee-pee jokes and talk about all that other stuff, that's completely fine. But one thing that MadBash and Spot Show has always been is real for the people. And that's what we're going to be here today. We're going to be real. We're going to have some conversations that might be uncomfortable for the people having the conversations and maybe uncomfortable for the people that are listening to said conversation. So I guess that's what the kids call a trigger warning. If you can't handle...
I was gonna kind of do that here. So just to be 100% clear, let's kind of put it out there, is this conversation is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
Me and you had spoken about doing this a month or 2 ago.
Yeah.
And I was very animated, and you were as well, about wanting to do this. So to be completely open and honest from the jump, let's get into this in the sense that we are going to talk about some very touchy subjects that may trigger some people.
Yes.
As we get deep into it, we will make sure to give those trigger warnings. However, I will say right now, if self-harm or unaliving yourself or stuff like that is something that is a trigger for you, please listen to this episode at your own discretion, because
this is the blanket.
It benefits nobody for us to pull punches. If we give you the bare minimum, it doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit the listeners. It doesn't benefit anyone. So this is going to get very personal, very in depth. And as we go, I will try to remember to drop any head specific trigger warnings. However, as a broad general one, just to be clear, those are subjects that are going to be talked about today. So if this is not your thing, like you said, either give this episode a skip or listen at your own discretion, and don't hesitate to just turn it off if it becomes a bit much, because we don't want anyone to feel alienated, but also we don't want to kind of tiptoe around the subjects and not give a very open and honest discussion, because that's what it needs to be, is open, honest discussions.
And just because this is a very heavy subject matter. I mean, we've always give open and honest discussions here, so we would be discrediting ourselves if we didn't continue that, just because it's a little bit heavy of a conversation.
Absolutely.
Also, a blanket thing that I would like to mention right now. Are you drinking straight from the tub? Or, oh no, that's like a, okay. So Kid Riot just took a drink from a movie theater cup, and it looked like that he did that thing that people do where I have the tub of the pre-workout and I just dump the water in the tub and drink straight from the tub.
This is how you know a movie's not going to be great, when you go opening day and they give you a free collector's cup large soda. That's how you know the movie's probably not going to be good. And it very much was not.
I've never seen the Borderlands movie. I refuse, actually.
Well, so to be clear, I have 2 Borderlands tattoos, so I kind of had to. And yeah, it was not good. Anyways.
Yeah. We also have a rule that we tend to do here on Spot Show. If that person is not in the business, we don't really call them out by name. I am sure that there are going to be some people that are going to get brought up that have like caused these different things for us that we have gone through. So they're more than likely just civilians. So we will leave it at that. And then also, here's the thing, like I said, before we really got too deep here, is if you like fun, if you like all that other stuff, I can't guarantee what's going to be on Paid Show this week, but I probably going to be a lot more fun. We'll probably save the fun conversation for Paid Show. And it's like, but Dickie, why would you put fun behind a paywall? Because listen, I would be a dick if I put a very heavy conversation like this behind a paywall. So yeah, let's get into it, man. Basically, like Kid Riot said here, this is our Mental Health Awareness Month podcast, and I've talked about a little bit my struggles with mental health in the past, but never really gone in depth. And this is going to kind of be, for me personally, I think that it could be kind of therapeutic. I think that it could be maybe eye-opening for those that are also going through some struggles, to be like, hey, Dickie did it, Kid Riot did it, maybe I can do it too. And I mean, talking about mental health is not just super important to me in that sense, but like, if it wasn't for, this is going to sound terrible, but if it wasn't for bad mental health, there wouldn't even be a MadBash Studios, because from the rubble of 2 guys going through arguably the darkest periods of their lives, came MadBash and came Spot Show. So I feel like we would be doing a discredit if we, didn't really broach these subjects. And of course, we do have our mental health awareness branch, MadBash UR. There are stickers that will be available at our merch table. Proceeds from those go towards mental health awareness groups and all of that. So I'm also not going to do that thing of like, where I've left a link in the comments of where you can go. Look, these resources are actually very easy to find. So if you feel the need that you want to help out with that stuff, but yeah.
And before we jump, I want to make this also very clear. If you are in a position where your mental health is I want to word this politely, a issue for you, a current dilemma, something that is weighing hard on you at the moment, I urge you to reach out to someone.
Always, anybody.
Anybody. There's many organizations that you can reach out to, and I'm going to name drop 1 or 2 as this podcast goes on, but just speak to someone, because it's a much better conversation to say, hey, I'm struggling and I kind of feel this way, than to not have that conversation and the consequences be permanent.
Yes.
So if you are feeling some sort of way, reach out to somebody.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good place to start. Kind of starting maybe at the end and then kind of working our way back, but getting the help, right? So I'm a product of therapy. I have sought 3 therapists in my life, and the third one was the one that took. My first bout of therapy was in 2011, 2012. that general area. And no discredit to the therapist. It worked, but it wasn't incredible. Then I saw it, took a 10-year break from therapy, saw it again. 2022 is when and then that one was fine. It was okay. It wasn't good, wasn't bad. And then my most recent stint with therapy was one of the most eye-opening experiences of my entire life. And I'm going to be so generic when I say this, but I'm sorry, it's the truth. Therapy changed my life. So I've given a quick synopsis of my history with therapy. Kidd Riot, I'm assuming that you've sought therapy as well.
So mine is a bit different. So as we jump in here deeper, I'll be able to give more detailed timeline. When I was never in a position financially or physically to be able to attend therapy for a very, very long time. And when we jump into the story of kind of how deep and dark I got down in it, I actually stumbled onto a mental health organization based out of Chicago, and that became a little bit of my therapy. And then also, speaking to them and learning from them and getting some sort of education from them, but also therapy for me had to become, because of financial situations, other situations, therapy for me had to become, maybe not in the office setting, professional, traditional style therapy, because I was just physically not able to be in that situation.
Yeah.
So traditional therapy is not something I have currently experienced. I have given it a lot of thought, especially recently over the last month, of attempting to find one because I am in a much better financial and life situation. But currently, that's not the route I went, and I'm not discrediting it at all because I know it's worked wonders for people.
Yeah.
But it's just not something I can't say this is what worked for me in therapy. I can just say what worked for me in kind of my personal journey.
And unless it's completely self-destructive, I'm putting that caveat on here.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's completely self-destructive, there really is no right answer on how to better yourself with mental health issues. I just want to throw that out there. I'm a product of therapy. Kidd Riot is not. We have both succeeded in our various avenues for the most part. Not to make assumptions about you, but I know you pretty well, that you're in a pretty good place. So I mean, we've both succeeded in our own avenues, like I just stated. So,
well, and to be clear, I'm not discrediting any avenue as long as, again, not self-destructive. Whatever works for you personally, and it'll take time for you to figure out what is your thing that works for you personally. Just because it works for me or works for you does not mean it would work for anybody else, whatever it is.
Yeah. So since this was really your idea, where do you want to go with this, brother? I mean, do I kind of give you the reins here and you can kind of lead the discussion? And this is not me trying to back out of not talking about anything. I'm just saying, brother, you tell me where you want to go, and I'm here.
So, I mean, I would like to spend a little time talking about my kind of darkest point, because I think it's a story I don't get to share very often, and it's definitely something that a lot of people do not know about me unless you were active in my life at that time. So
let me just throw this out there real quick then. That's very brave of you to go on a public podcast and just be like, hey, I'm going to let it all out. That takes a lot of courage.
And I look at it in the sense that if you're not willing to do that, if I'm not kind of wide open with what I've gone through, then I am shortchanging people who may need that help, but don't feel they maybe are embarrassed to ask for help, or maybe think that oh, I can't ask for help. That's some sort of sign of weakness, which, first of all, make it very clear, asking for help is never a sign of weakness. Anyone that tells you otherwise is only lying to themselves. Because at some point, everybody has to have some sort of assistance with something. So, before I jump in this, I will make it very clear. I am going to talk about a little bit of self-harm and very much I'm going to talk about the time that I came very close to not being here with us anymore. So if those are things that are going to bother you, this is a good point to fast forward, maybe pass on this, because I'm not going to pull any punches there with this.
I expect nothing less.
And this is very much, these are just what I went through. So to kind of jump into it, and timeline, I'm not sure 100% on how many years ago. I know it was probably 7-ish years ago. I can't remember. But so I was in a very intense relationship, and it was very, very loving, and it had been many, many years of friendship that had turned into something much more. And I was looking at long-term futures like marriage and foreverness. It went super sideways, and when it did, it was I had wanted a forever. She had not sure what she wanted, but she was fairly confident it wasn't forever at that moment. So we had a pretty rough breakup, and it was simply off the fact of we were at different points in our lives. I was ready for her to marry her, and she was ready to. She was still out trying to see the world. And at the time, I was working a lot of hours. So one of my big issues is with if I don't sleep for a couple days, it will mess with my brain. It will make me have a lot of doubts and hard feelings towards myself because lack of sleep plays tricks on your brains. I say that a lot.
Yes. I just watched a video on YouTube the other day about someone who tried to stay awake for 50 hours. And he was like, dude, like I got to just under the 48-hour mark, and it was miserable.
Yeah, it will mess with your brain. So that was a lot of things I was going through. So after a lot of, and even a lot of my coworkers have said, like, you're not yourself, you're not here mentally, like you're not you. Anyone who's been around me, I'm very happy go lucky, I'm goofy, I'm silly. I'm a big child at times, and that was just not part of my personality at that time, to the point that it would have been brought up to me a few times by coworkers of like, I don't know what's going on, but you are not you. And
there's I want to jump in with this real quick too. I'm going to jump in and add like some sizzle to some of this. When people are noticing that there is something wrong with you, and you are just like, whatever. There's a lot of ego that goes into that, because it's like at our core, we don't want to admit that we are imperfect. And some people just look at people being like, hey, Nate, you're not acting yourself. Whatever. Not saying you did this, maybe you did do this, but it's like that. They don't know what they're talking about. If anyone knows me better than anyone, it's me. And sometimes that might not be the case. You might not know yourself as well as you think you do.
Oh, absolutely. And this wasn't even that. It was my brain was so singularly focused that even when I heard that, I didn't go, well, that's not true. I literally had no opinion because it just wouldn't register to me mentally. Like I was emotionally numb, or so I was perceived. But
yes.
The truth is, I was going through a lot of mental struggles. What could I have done? And back and forth, back and forth. And this is a little sidetrack, but it very much explains why I am the way I am. Is I have very, very crippling abandonment issues due to a personal relationship with my biological mother. So when people leave my life, or people feel like they're leaving my life, I tend to latch on tighter or freak out or get very erratic and nervous and upset because of those abandonment issues that I've had for a long, long time and probably will have my entire life. So it was at breakup. It was also losing a 10+ year friend and them stepping away from my life. And so I lost someone I was in love with, but also a friend that I had built a long lasting relationship with. And it really had my abandonment issues like front and forth, right up front, and very active. And so it's like, yes, it's sad I'm not with this person more that I love, but also it's someone I care about is left in my life. And I hate that, and it makes me uncomfortable, and it makes me nervous, and it makes me erratic, and it makes me, very down on myself personally, and weighing hard on myself because of my abandonment issues that I have had my entire life.
Abandonment issues are a motherfucker.
Oh my
They
God.
really are. They really are. I don't I don't suffer from them much anymore because of this thing called therapy. But mine was not a familial abandonment issues because my mom and dad have always been there for me, and I'm lucky in that regard. It was always more of a friendship or a relationship or stuff like that where and then we're gonna get kind of into not right now because you're still very much in the middle of a story, but we're going to get into more of this acceptance side of things where you kind of got to look at a few things and reevaluate a few things with all that. But please continue.
So I had made the decision on a Tuesday that Sunday, which would have been 4 or 5 days away, I was going to take my own life. I had made that decision in my head, and my mentality was I have 4 days to convince myself not to take my own life, because I wanted to be sure that when I did it, I was making what I thought within my heart was the right decision. So for 4 days, I kind of just was debating if I was accepting this or if I was going to kind of turn things around and change my mentality. And you can look, there's a photo that I took the day after I made that decision. And you can look in my eyes, and if you know what's going on, you can be like, wow, there's something really wrong. But if you don't know what was going on, I look like I'm just tired. He looks a little tired, but he's having fun.
But you probably were very tired.
Oh, I probably
Exhausted.
was, but it was, yeah. But I had made peace with the fact that in a matter of days I was just going to be done. I planned out how, I planned out where, I planned out everything. Like I knew that if I did it in a certain location, and I gave a call to 911 before I did it, there's no way they could be there in time to stop it after it happened. There's no way they could quote unquote save me. I had made that decision, and I had planned it out, and I had made peace with myself taking my own life. And Wednesday came and went, and Thursday came and went, and Friday came and went. And at no one point did I doubt that I was making the wrong. I was confident in the fact that I was making the right decision by taking my own life. I was okay with it. I made peace with myself doing it, and I was like, "This is what I'm going to do," and that's just where I'm at with it. And I had planned everything to a T. Probably one of the more planning aspects I had ever done in my life up until that point. And Saturday rolled around, and I went to attend a friend of mine's son's birthday party. And I was there, and she has known me for, at this point, 20 plus years. And she could tell there was something wasn't right. She could tell that like I was not me. I was there. The lights were on, but nobody's home. That whole analogy. And she called my adopted mother and said, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you're busy, but Nate is here, and he is not himself. Something is wrong. He won't tell me. He's trying to play it off like nothing's wrong. There's something physically wrong here. There's something not right. Something feels just off." And my adopted mother called me immediately, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Da 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 da. She's like, "Why don't you come by the house?" And I did not. At this point, I had no idea that anything had been said, and I was like, "Okay, I got nothing going on. Sure." So
Which I'm going to jump in. There is nothing worse than when which I want to also preface, I have never had thoughts of harming myself. I've never harmed myself. I've never wanted to unalive myself. I've never wanted to do that. But I have gotten so low that I have looked at it and been like, yeah, I understand why people would,
Right.
Not that I wanted to, but I would. So anyway, all that to say, there is nothing harder in this process, in my personal opinion, than when it 9 times out of 10, it's a mom calls you and you are in this state and you have to hide how bad off you are. You gotta, hello, oh yeah, hi mom, and you gotta just awful.
So, and to be clear, my adopted mother, she's the only person I will ever apologize for cussing in front of. Um, and it's just something I do. And I can't lie to her. So I came over to her house and she's like, "What's going on?" And I, nothing. I didn't know anything. And she just said, "No, what's really going on?" Because Stephanie called me and there's obviously something here. And I was completely honest with her and I said, "This is where I'm at. This is why I'm at here. This is what I'm planning. And I gave her everything. And we sat there and we talked and there were a lot of tears shed. And she's like, she's like, this is not, this is not what you need to do. This is not the choice you want to make. And you need to really consider this. And I had kind of convinced myself through talking to her that, maybe I am making the wrong choice. Maybe I'm wrong. And I did not obviously take my life the following day, but there was still the thoughts in the head and there were definitely still intentions. Well, small sidetrack, but not really. A few days later, I purchased a vehicle from a friend of mine. And 12 hours later, after purchasing this vehicle, I fell asleep behind the wheel and I drove it into a pole. The road curved. I was asleep. My foot went on the pedal and I just drove into this pole. And so now, I was getting ready to take my own life, did not do that. Bought a car, immediately wrecked it. So we went on a heck of a roller coaster immediately. And I went to work and my face was beat up pretty severely. And I looked rough, because I had just been in a car accident.
Yeah. On top of what you're going through mentally.
Yeah. And one of my bosses was really on my case of because I wasn't working like I normally had. I was making mistakes. I wasn't there mentally. And me and him had a talk and it culminated with me coming into the office where he was. I saw red. People say I was so mad I saw red. That's a real thing. I genuinely, I remember hearing from my side one of my coworkers going, "Nate, don't do that. Nate, don't do that. Nate, don't do." And as I was beelining to said office, and I kicked the door open, and I apologize for the language because I'm going to be their ass. And I said, "Listen here, motherfucker," to my boss, and proceeded to just verbally annihilate him with everything that was going on in my life. Like, I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with this. My face looks like this. I just spent $1,000 on a vehicle that I owned for less than 12 hours. I went through everything that was going on in my life. Well, what I did not know is the reason he was in the office is he was on the phone with our big boss. And so my big boss hears door swing open. "Listen here, motherfucker."
Yeah, that ain't good. That ain't good. Look.
And my boss hang up the phone because he's like, "This is not a conversation." He was smart enough to go, well, my boss calls back to the branch and is like, "Hey, is something going on? Do we need to call the cops? Like, is this a serious situation? Like, what is happening?" And they're like, "It's fine. It's just a little thing." Da, 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 da. So me and my boss have a serious heart to heart, and I said, "This is where I'm at. I'm really struggling to keep myself to wake up tomorrow. I'm struggling to find reasons to wake up tomorrow. I want to be done with life. I want to be over it. I'm good. I give up." And me and him had a good heart to heart. And I walked out to the lobby area where we all were working. And one of the other guys says, "Hey, you need to pick up this phone. You need to make this call to this number and call our big boss," because they were on the phone when you snapped out.
Yeah. Explain.
Yeah. So I called our big boss and she's like, "What in the hell is going on?" And so I and I give her the whole story. And she says, "So here's the deal. We're opening a new Wells Fargo bank vault in Omaha, Nebraska. Why don't you come out here? We need people to work out here. Why don't you come out here for 2 weeks? See if that helps. Maybe a change of scenery will help your brain." Yeah. And I jumped on the opportunity, but between myself in my personal heart, I thought to myself, if I decide that, hey, if I get out there and I go, hey, you know what, I still want to take my own life. No one's out there. No one knows me out there. No one can stop me. I can just do it. There will be no one to physically stop me from doing this. And that's part of the reason I went, because I just to go do it, and nobody can
why
stop me.
not?
And
You're
no one
you're
can tell me
John
no.
Doe out there.
Exactly. So I went out to Omaha, Nebraska, flew out there, and with the intent of working. And if it didn't work out, I had a backup plan. And I went swimming one day, one of the first days I was there. And then I went and I walked into the gym and I got on the treadmill a little bit. And at this point, I had rarely been to the gym, and I said, and I had a good workout, and I was like, okay, well, that, definitely helped my mood. And a day later, I went back to the gym and did a little, work on the treadmill, maybe lifted a little arm weights, a little bit, nothing serious, but just a little workout here. And I was like, okay, well, that's definitely helping my mood. And it kind of got to the point where I realized that if I went to the gym and worked out, it definitely helped my feelings of self-worth and my personal thoughts about me personally. Like that, it helped my opinion of myself. And so I was like, well, maybe that's something I need to consider doing, is just being more active in the gym and see if that, helps me get rid of some of these negative thoughts that are just beating the ever living hell out of me right now.
And that's what we were talking about a minute ago, is that therapy is a little bit more than just sitting on a couch talking to a professional. There's other forms of therapy, and you are describing one of them. People use the gym as their therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I slowly became, and this is, mind you, at this point, I'm living in a hotel. So I'm not going to like Planet Fitness or Crunch or, anything like that. I'm going to a hotel gym, which had, a few weights and a treadmill and elliptical, and that was pretty much it. But it was enough to, yeah, absolutely. And at that point in my life, it was enough. It was more than enough to kind of help me. And slowly, the going to the gym became my therapy. And as I kept going, I started getting more confident. Well, anyone who knows the story, the 2 weeks I was out in Omaha became 10 months where I was living out there. And I firmly believe that time out there and those people out there saved my life. The friends I made, the people I got to interact with, the stuff I got to learn saved my life. I've said it many, many times, Omaha is my second home. Nebraska is my second home. Nebraska is home. I said that many, many times. And that's because without it, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because I would have been gone. I would have taken my life. Had I not been able to go out there and experience that, I wouldn't have made it here. Me and you would not be having this conversation. I would never known a MadBash existing, because I wouldn't be here physically. So that's something I could.
You would have just known me as the weird kid that showed up in an ICW show with Jason V wearing Mario pajama pants that you sat and buried the rest of the show with. That's all you would have known me as.
And that's would have, because that's I up until that point, I had made peace with what was about to happen. And fast forward these years later, full disclosure, like, am I like, oh, and now I'm cured? Absolutely not. I struggle still to this day with everything. I struggle with depression. I struggle with abandonment issues. The other thing is, and me and you have talked about this personally, and I've talked about it a tiny bit publicly, is for the longest time, my therapy was drinking heavily. I used to drink heavily, when I was in Nebraska.
Mine was food.
Okay. Yeah. And see, like that for me. Yeah. And so, I would replace healthy, not therapy, but therapy-esque activities with heavy drinking. And anyone who's seen me very intoxicated knows that I am not a enjoyable drunk to be around. I'm really not. I am until I'm not, and then no one's having fun. Is really the analogy I normally use. Is like, we're gonna have fun until we don't, and then no one's gonna have any fun anymore. And so part of my therapy was getting sober. Because if I hadn't, I was going to vicious cycle myself. When you are under the influence of any substance, you tend to not think as clearly as you are without that substance. So for me, I had to get sober because that was part of my issue for being able to move forward in my life and in my therapy journey, was to not have this thing that is clouding my judgment.
Now, was this cold turkey?
Yes, it was. So I did. Well, I mean, I had tried getting sober a couple times and it didn't take, or I'd given up way too early. And so on my grandmother's funeral, I made a decision that would be my sobriety day. That the last time I would drink would be the night before my grandmother's funeral. I made that decision. And my friend Brooke at the time had came with me to my grandmother's funeral and was very supportive. She is also an alcoholic, and she had given me her 1 day sober coin. Say, hey, this is your first day sober. I know you're not going to do the meetings thing because you don't want to, but here's this. Now you're officially 1 day sober. Here's your reminder. And that became kind of my thing. And I realize we're a little bit off tangent, but I promise they're all connected.
Listen, this all ties together.
Yeah. And to this day, I have a necklace that has the key to my grandmother's house on it. And if I ever struggle with sobriety, I will actually put it on and wear that necklace, because that is my reminder that I am doing something for bigger than me. Me being sober is bigger than me, and it has to be bigger than me. I mean, yes, it is for me and my health, but it has also got to be bigger than me. And that's kind of my reminder for that, is this key of her house that's on a necklace I wear occasionally when I'm starting to kind of have rough days. But
I think we all got to have those totems.
Absolutely. And again, to this day, I will have days where I just struggle with self-worth, depression, feelings of abandonment. And I let a lot of things in the abandonment issues kind of rear its head more than I should. Even to this point, I'm not the best at it. I'm still learning how to deal with those feelings and try to convince myself that, hey, the whole world doesn't hate you. It's not that no one likes you. It's your mind playing tricks on you because you're having a bad day. And one of the things I heard very, very young was suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. That's
the one that everyone heard.
Yep.
And where that is mostly true, I think there also are times where maybe that's not necessarily true, and you have to look at the certain circumstances. But in wrestling, you got to look at, we've had a lot of guys take their own life, whether they did it physically or whether they just poisoned themselves to death. We've had a lot of guys do that. That's
stand-up comedy and pro wrestling just attract broken people.
Right. And the problem with when you're broken is anything that goes sideways can break you farther than you even had planned to be broken. And that's where you have that open dialogue. So to fast forward a few months after, I think I was still living in Omaha, driving back and forth, I couldn't remember. I went to a Comic-Con, and ironically, the woman who I most recently parted ways with, relationship-wise, was there with me, and she said, "Hey, you should check out this booth. They're local, and they're a mental health organization. They're very, very nice. Just check their stuff out." And so I did. I picked up a card, and I ended up buying a sweatshirt, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I kind of just left it as is. And then I went back to Omaha, and while I'm in Omaha, I thought to myself, like, brother, like, maybe you should talk to these people.
Yeah.
And I messaged every form of social media they had, their Instagram, their Twitter, their Facebook, and their personal and their email, saying, "Hey, this is me. This is my story. I want to learn. I want to be a part. I want to help. What can I do?"
Yeah.
And I got to know them a little bit. And they were, to the point that one of the head people had given me their phone number and was like, "Hey, let's talk." And we talked the first time I talked, I think we talked for like an hour and a half. And we talked about my mental health struggles, his mental health struggles, the education process that they have, what they do for their community, they can do for me, what I can do for them. We talked about everything. And because he was a big wrestling fan, we talked quite a bit about wrestling as well. And that was a good bridge for us. So they used to have a podcast of their own where they would sit down at the coffee shop that they own, and they would have guests come in and talk. And they said, "Hey, would you come and tell your story?" Absolutely. Well, so first of all, the hilarious thing is doing a podcast and I wear my mask. Every time we've done this, we have the video on, so I have my mask. Well, at this point, I have met these people once, and they know the situation, but it's like, I'm going to walk into a coffee shop in downtown Chicago in a mask. That's going to be awkward. Yeah, it's going to be awkward. So there was a hilarious conversation of like, hey, I didn't know how this was going to go because of this and this and this. And they did not film video, thankfully. So I was able to just talk and not, have to go like, let me put my mask, so.
Well, that's good. That's good that you can find that outlet though, regardless.
Yeah. And so to fast forward about a year and a half later, they decide they want to they do a lot of mental health fundraisers, obviously, because they do a lot of mental health education. And they decide we should run a wrestling show to benefit mental health. One of the coolest shows I've ever been a part of, mainly because it was a great words are struggling right now. Yes, perfect. There you go. For mental health, but also it was something I could do personally. I've said from many, many times, and I think I probably even told you on the side is, I'm not good at a lot, but I can run a wrestling show for a great cause if I have to. I'm good at that. I'm pretty darn good at running wrestling shows for good causes. So they had said, hey, obviously their one caveat was you got to book. They had to, the person who was booking, who was not associated with them, had to book me. That was like their one caveat is like, you got to book our buddy because, we're footing the bill for you to do a bunch of cool stuff for this mental health thing. So please book our one friend. And I got to do that through that. And had I not been open and honest and said, hey, these are my mental health struggles. What can I do? Hey, can you help me? That's an opportunity I would have never gotten. And, I'm standing in a locker room with Scotty Tuhati, Tommy Dreamer, Cole Cabana. Who else was on this freaking card? Falaba, KM, and a few other guys who I know from the Philly Independents. But here I am with Scotty Tuhati and Colt Cabana and freaking Tommy Dreamer hanging in a locker room because
it's a murderer's row.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I talked to them about mental health. Because of that, I'm getting this great opportunity to hang out with people who I may not have gotten the opportunity. And that was kind of a full circle moment for me because I had started when I met them, I was at the absolute lowest of the low. And now I am enjoying opportunities I may have never gotten because I had the strength to go, hey, I think I need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Yes. And so where it was a really kind of disappointing story to hear me say like, hey, I was ready and I would made peace with me calling it a day. Something good eventually came out of that. The darkest points of my life, eventually gave me something worthy, something that made me feel like everything I've went through negatively has led me to this good thing. So the old phrase, God bless the broken road that led me to you, the definition of that. Because
darkest before dawn, brother.
Yeah. And I had taken a broken ass road that led me to that moment. So I had reached, like I said, to this day, I still struggle with these things. Everything I said that I struggled with in the past, I still struggle with. And I probably will my entire life. Yeah. But I've learned how to deal with it.
That's pivotal to what I want to get into here with that is that it's like, look, this stuff's always, it's omnipresent.
Yeah, no, I'm never going to not have abandonment issues where they may not be as severe. And there may be weeks when it doesn't flare up, but I'm going to have those issues for my entire life. I'm going to be an alcoholic my entire life. I'm sober, but that is always going to be something. I'm a firm believer that addiction is not something that goes away. It's just something you learn how to fight back against. Because I will be an alcoholic till the day I die. It's just how many days do I fight back and say, hey, you know what? This may be bothering me, but it doesn't beat me.
Doesn't define me.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that all my mental health issues, everything I've carried, everything I went through, everything I will go through are just challenges to say, hey, am I going to fail at this challenge, or am I going to fight back and win? And forever hoping to win, and forever hoping that I just go no and I swing harder than it swings at me.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we went a little bit long before the mid-roll, but hey, that's what we're doing here. We're just rolling with the punches. So I just want to remind everyone really quickly that this is, of course, the Spot Show podcast. Each and every week, my friends and I get together. We talk about the wacky world of independent wrestling and everything in between. If you like what we're doing here, you can, of course, go on over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios. Back us at the $5 tier. There, you're going to get all of our shows early and ad-free, as well as some exclusive content. If you don't have the extra money to toss our way, I understand that completely. You can go to madbashstudios.com. There you will find links to all of our social media. You can go follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, all the other social media. Go find us. Go to your favorite podcasting platform. Leave us a 5-star written review. That really helps us. Go to the YouTube where the podcast is uploaded. Leave us a like and a comment so that we can beat that almighty algorithm. That is the best way to keep the microphones on and the envelopes full. Some plug skis and upcoming dates for you. Our last show, Event Horizon, is available in full on the $10 tier of the Patreon for limited exclusivity. Go on over there for $10. You get to see one of the best shows that the Midwest has seen in quite some time. And I'm not just saying that because it was my show. People have told me that. Coming up here this Saturday, May 23rd, MadBash Wrestling presents The Gang Wrestles for the Troops. The main event on the evening, Devontae Knox versus Christian Rose. The MadBash Wrestling Championship and the Dreamwave Alternative Championship are on the line. Who is going to walk out a double champion? Only way to find out is to be in Marshall, Illinois on May 23rd. The American Legion Post, Clark County Post 90 at 302 South 8th Street in Marshall, Illinois. Doors open at 6 local time. We hope to see everybody there. Now, we're going to be getting more into this discussion because there's a couple of key points that Kidd Riot mentioned that I want to kind of touch on about this whole thing. And we are going to get into those after we hear a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Venom Energy. Hey, we've all been there, and there's nothing wrong with admitting to it. Well, what I mean is that we've all hit that midday slump, and we all need a little push to get us through the rest of the day. Well, what better option to give you a pick-me-up than one of the wonderful flavors of Venom Energy? Venom is what gets MadBash through those long show days, and we know that it can do the same for you. I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit for you, too. Yeah, come to our merch table when you see us at a show, and with the purchase of a MadBash Wrestling sticker or magnet, you get a Venom Energy drink on us. While supplies last, of course, so you better act quick. We'd like to thank Venom again for sponsoring this episode. Please consume responsibly. Not recommended for children under 18, pregnant or nursing women, or people sensitive to caffeine. This episode is brought to you by patreon.com/MadBash Studios. If you head on over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios, you are helping fund the definition of independent. Hundreds of hours of content starting at just $5 a month. You are going to get early, ad-free access to everything that MadBash Studios has to offer, on top of exclusive shows starting at just $5 a month. That's less than a cup of coffee a month. You can go on over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios and you can support the dream of being unapologetically creative. All right, so Kidd Riot just stole the first 45 minutes of this podcast. So now it's time for me to take over here.
Hey,
look,
brother, I had to get my stuff in, brother.
hey man, hey brother, I was just trying to give you an opportunity. Here's the thing. This is not me copping out. My story has been told 1,000 times on here. I've mentioned the breakups, the depression, where I was so low that I just wasn't showering. I would get home from my shoot job. I would just sit on the couch. I would be like, I guess I have to eat now because that's what I'm supposed to do because I'm a human. I have to survive. And I would eat mashed potatoes that had been sitting out on the kitchen counter for 2 days just to get some sustenance. Then I would just go to bed at about 7:30, sleep for 12 hours, go through my day doing nothing, get home from work, sleep for 3 hours, get up because you have to be a person, lather, rinse, repeat, realize after 5 days, I probably need to get a shower, just shit like that. And this, again, I'm not playing the world's tiniest fiddle. This is just me and Kidd Riot talking about our experiences. But I mean, like, I've talked about all my shit ad nauseum. People have heard the stories. This was really Kidd Riot's opportunity to get his story out there. So kudos. I will say the tears did hit when you were telling that story, man, because it was like thinking of a reality where you're not in my life. And
so let me make this very clear is one thing I forgot to mention, but it radiates real true, and I think you'll even know this because you know me pretty darn well, is my friend Brooke at my grandmother's funeral, one of the things she said to me is, you care more about other people than you ever will care about yourself. Which is
same.
Yeah, that's very much me. My favorite book is A Tale of Two Cities, solely because it ends with a man sacrificing his pathetic life so someone else can have the perfect life.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite book solely because of that reason. And I've said that in the past. So the big things I've said is that I now have two amazing, beautiful nieces who are, and I have my mother and the four other boys she's adopted. That's right. She's got 5 of us. Good Lord. And because of that, I have my reasons to keep going because I have to set a good example for the people I love.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that you should live your life for other people, but for me personally, that's what I have to do.
And that is key to what I want to transition into here. You did a big thing by doing that. You are doing this thing called taking accountability. Not a lot of people do that. You only get out of therapy what you want to get out of therapy.
Well, you get what you put in.
And you get what you put in. If you are not being truthful with yourself, if I'm going to tell my story now, I had a friend who was my absolute best friend. He helped me a lot with my creative endeavors. I helped him a lot with my creative endeavors. And through him, I met some people that I wasn't necessarily too keen on. They were just, I don't want to put them on blast because, again, they are civilians, but they were very much the type of people that were entitled by their ability. They were artists, and there is nothing worse than an artist that is delusional and entitled. Very much like wrestlers. They were very much these people that didn't understand you kind of got to you got to put in the work to get to the key point. They didn't understand that. They wanted to skip point B and go straight to C. That's what they were. That was the kind of people they were. And they basically got in the head of my friend, and they basically convinced him that I was the reason that he hadn't succeeded in the world of art, and that I was holding him back, and that I was this awful person, and that I was doing all of this and doing all of that. And when you have something like that happen, you'd have to truly take a step back. And it can easily be like, fuck them, man, motherfuck them. They corrupted my friend. No, you have to take a step back and you have to think, okay, let's do this thing called taking accountability. Let's look at the situation and let's see what I did and what they were doing and see if they are right. And by doing so, and by actually taking accountability, I looked at it and I realized I didn't do anything wrong. They're the ones in the wrong. And I wasn't coming at it from a place of delusion where I didn't want to accept what I had done was wrong, but that's just simply how it was. There are other times where I have looked at, because I look at every situation and be like, it's that meme, are we the baddies? Where you kind of got to take a step back and look. And there have been moments where I've realized, that was my fault. And I'm a big believer in, let's not look at why this person is acting. No, sorry. Let's not look at how the person is acting. Let's really break down why they're acting that way. And there was a pivotal moment when I think the switch flipped with this situation that I am describing. We were all on Steam. We were all playing a game and something just wasn't lining up for me. It wasn't running right. There was like a code I had to put in or something. And I'm like, hey guys, which if anyone's ever played Gary's mod, you know how rough it can be. It's like, it's the Wild West, man. You got to have this shit locked in. I was like, hey guys, this isn't working for me. And then they went, oh, just try this. And I was like, well, I did do that and it didn't work. So what should I do? And I was ignored. And they just kept talking. And I was like, hey guys, this is not working. What can I do here? Nothing. Finally, there was a break in the conversation. And I went, hey guys, this is not working. What do I need to do? Well, did you do this? And then I had my burst through the office door, hey motherfucker moment. And I went, I fucking told, and I just unloaded. And I was like, if you would fucking listen to me, I told you that I did that and it did not work. And you just weren't doing this and that and that. And it's like, you can look at that situation on the surface, especially if you are the one that is getting yelled at and you are someone that doesn't take accountability for what you do. Oh, well, he was just being a dickhead to me. I told him what to do and he just wasn't listening. It's like, no, motherfucker, you got to take all of this stuff and take your own accountability and take all of this into consideration. I fucking despise it, Nate. I despise victim mentality. I hate victim mentality. And a lot of people that go through mental health struggles, look, we can't help it. We can't help it. Our brain is wired differently. But the first step in fully acknowledging your mental health issues, I am not vilifying someone that has mental struggles. I'm not doing that. Do not misinterpret that. What I do vilify in a way is not taking accountability and having that watershed moment of where it's like, I need to fix this. And instead of blaming everybody else around you. I had an ex that was just like that, who blamed everyone else.
And you talk about you have to take accountability, and to kind of go back to that point, that was the most difficult part with me getting sober. Is I had to take
It's hard, but
and I had to take accountability for everything I had done when I was not sober. I had a lot of apologies to give out. I had a lot of, that was kind of a D-bag move by me when I was that way, and not be like, I couldn't be like, well, in my defense, no, there's no defense. I had to be like, yeah, I did that and it was wrong and that was messed up, and I can apologize and try to be better in the future, but I'm not going to pretend like I was not the bad person in those scenarios.
Yeah. And it's like one of those, it's like, okay, sorry that I blew up, guys, but you're blatantly ignoring me. And if I'm being ignored, I'm sorry, that's going to upset me. So yeah, like we're not, again, disclaimer, we're not attacking anyone that has mental problems. That would be a dickhead move. And I understand that it's hard. I understand that it is so difficult to admit that you need help. But you've experienced it. Specifically, because we are a wrestling podcast. We've experienced it in the world of wrestling a lot. You know, that's our linchpin. We use that as the litmus test. The booker just doesn't get what's going on here. I don't know why. I just don't get why I'm not succeeding. And because you're a fucking asshole is probably why. And it's everyone else's fault but you.
Oh, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I definitely have had those moments in the past, you know, where I was like, it's everyone's fault but not mine, or, you know, maybe I wasn't honest with myself about anything that I was being that way. And that's usually times when I reach out to like people like you and be like, hey, am I the asshole here? And you know, you and other people, Oliver most recently has been like, oh, there's my opinion on if you were the asshole or not.
Oh my God, yes. How many times have we had the am I the asshole here moment?
Well, and I mean, most recently, and I'm
with Oliver, yeah, I know the exact one.
Yeah, but like I talked to you and you were like, talk to Oliver about it. He's got a better moral compass on the situation than I do. And I did. And after I got done talking to Oliver, I was like, okay, cool. Well, now I know.
Yeah. But you reached out to someone.
Absolutely.
No, because I just like, oh, fuck him. No, I don't want his opinion. That's what it is, man. We are humans. And if we don't listen to our fellow humans, then I think that we are missing a big key part of our life. Whether we agree with what they're saying or not, I think that it's human nature you just kind of have to listen to things.
Well, and it helps to have a support system that works for you personally.
Yes.
You know, for me, I have an amazing support system of a couple people who I've got a bunch of people that I know I can say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? But then I know I also have a couple people, a small group of people that I can say, hey, it's 3 a.m. and I have to talk to you right this second about this right now, or something bad will happen. And I have those people, you know, I'm going to be a little selfish here and just say, I am blessed with an amazing sister who I love unconditionally, who will be there for me no matter what, any day or time. I've got an amazing best friend named Kylie who has literally dropped everything, including work, to say, hey, because I said, hey, I kind of want to drink. And she sat down and said, no, we're going to talk it out instead. Through my mental health education, through Hope for Us Network, I've met Carl, who's one of the founders, and he is the biggest teddy bear and the most caring individual to say, hey, let's talk about this no matter what. And you have to find your support system. Maybe it's your therapist, but maybe it's a friend of yours that you know will listen to you without judgment. Me and you have had a few conversations. Me and you have grown as friends a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Oh, for sure.
And now I know that if I was like, brother, I'm struggling, like I kind of want to go buy a bottle, I can talk to you and you'd be like, hey, let me explain to you why you really don't want to do that. And you won't say, you're not going to do that because this is. You're going to say, I know you don't want to do that, and here's why I know you don't want to do that.
Exactly. And some people, I mean, are just wired to be alone, to just want to be the lone wolf. But it's like, you don't have to be that. You don't have to be that. And really looking at a situation, sometimes we need the other perspective. And whether it's a therapy session or a friend or a family member or something like that, 9 times out of 10, it's a lot better if it's someone who is completely foreign to the situation, of course. Right. That definitely helps for sure. That's why I champion therapy. But I mean, no, like, my support system is fucking incredible. And finding that support system took me some time. We had to weed out a few people. And that's the cost of doing business, as they say.
Well, and you know as well as I do, everyone is your friend when everything's beautiful and wonderful, and then you find out who's really your friends when everything goes the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, a good example, and then I will stop name dropping everybody and their brother. Is Limbo. I'm going to give him a personal thing here because about a year and a half ago, I made a mistake and got 3 tickets in 12 months, all cell phone tickets, to be clear. And if you do that in the state of Illinois, they take your license away.
Ooh.
Well, funny story is I had a huge opportunity to wrestle in Chicago for a very, very big opportunity. And I didn't have a way of getting there because I had no driver's license, no car that I could drive because I didn't have a license and was in a bind. And Limbo, my dear friend, decided, no, you're going to make this booking, and made sure I got there, knowing he was not booked, knowing anything else. He just said, put some gas in my car. I will drive 40 minutes out of my way to come get you, to drive 2 hours to this wrestling show, to drive 2 hours back, to drive 40 minutes back home. So he literally drove past his house twice to take me to this opportunity. And that was, you know, that's proof of like people that are there for you when stuff is sideways, because everyone's there for you when everything's great, but when things are sideways, you find out who's really there for you.
100%. 100%. I think that's a pretty good note to end on right there. Because it's not all doom and gloom up in his room. With his magic little wish that grants his every wish. Oh, sorry. His magic little fish grant his every wish. In reality, they are his odd parents, fairly odd parents, wands and wings, floaty, crowny things.
I was wondering where you were going with this.
Well, I was like doom and gloom up in. Dude, I used to know the whole song. Timmy is an average kid that no one understands. Mom and Dad and Vicky always giving him commands. Bad twerp.
I name dropped Chip Skylark about 2 days ago.
Oh, that is incredible.
And his shiny teeth.
My shiny teeth and me. That was Justin Timberlake, right? That voiced him.
I believe so.
Question mark? Yeah, I believe so. But anyway, yeah, it's not all doom and gloom, guys. If you take nothing away from this, it's that, look, it's going to get bad. There's going to be dark times. That's just how it is. It's how you handle it. One thing that we didn't really get to like kind of dive into, so fuck it, we're going to dive into it a little bit now. It won't take long. Is Kidd Riot said something that really resonated with me because I'm the same way when I believe this. I suffer from depression. My name is Josh Thomas, and I suffer from depression. I suffer from loneliness issues. I suffer from abandonment issues. I have an addictive personality. Nothing is ever going to cure me of those things. It's learning to live with those things. Kidd Riot is an alcoholic. And he is always going to be an alcoholic. You never stop being an addict in anything. It's how you live with it. You have a smirk on your face, and I'm trying to figure out what it's about.
Because it is, I don't know how to word it. So keep going. I'll try to figure out how to word it in the meantime.
No, I mean, that's just what I'm saying, is that, like, you need to have that mindset. You're never going to be cured of these things. They're always going to be there. I have been, knock wood, I've been pretty good about it. I've not had a depressive spell in a bit, but sometimes you just kind of, oh man, you just feel down and it's hard. And, you know, you work through it and you don't have to do it alone.
Okay. So I can explain this now. So the first time I publicly came out and said, hey, I'm an alcoholic, was at a wrestling show. And it was when I hit 7 months sober. It was the first time I publicly declared this. And the more I talk about my struggles with mental health like this and tell the story of me and how Nebraska changed my life and how everything was dark before it, and the more times I talk about my alcoholism, the easier it gets to talk about it. So when we say like, hey, you should talk to people, you should talk to people, you should talk to people, it's because it gets easier. It gets,
Yes.
because I was terrified to tell the first time I told the story of me potentially taking my life, I was terrified to tell that story because I thought everybody around me would be like, wow, look at this freaking goof. And
Yeah.
that's not the response I got. And the more I talk about it, the easier it becomes to talk about it. So yes, that first initial conversation is going to kind of suck, but after that, I promise it gets easier.
Yeah, it really does. And like I said, you got to go into it with this mentality that you're not going to be cured of it necessarily. It's how you live with it. And the tools that you learn along the way, whether it be through a professional or when you're just walking on a treadmill and you're kind of just in your head talking yourself through it. You know, it is what it is.
And really quickly before you wrap this up, you know, slight peek behind the curtain, when we went to start recording today, we had a conversation because I received kind of rough news literally 5 minutes before we started recording today. And you had even asked, like, hey, do you want to not do this? Like, you're not in the right headspace about it. And I kind of was like, no, I'm going to push through. I'm going to push through. And as we started, to be honest, there was a couple times where I was like, you know what, man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this podcast right now today. And an hour and 9 minutes later, I'm very glad we did.
Yeah. And there was part of me that was like, just go through, man. Trust me, it's going to be worth it in the end.
And an hour and 9 minutes later, it very much was.
Yeah. So listen, guys, here's the thing. You're not alone. You are not alone. I hope that Kidd Riot's story, my story, which I just gave Spark notes, and I kind of feel like a dick for doing that because you really bared your soul. But I've talked about mine over the course of multiple podcasts. But you know, if you're on a show that we're on, you want to come talk to us, come talk to us. You know, we're not the only ones.
Like, I'm a big hugger. Yeah. So if you just want to walk up and get a hug and not explain why you need that hug, brother, you literally go open your arms. I got you. You ain't gonna explain. That's me. I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm saying I am personally.
Yes,
like that.
Yes, definitely. To be clear, you know, ask for permission before we do the hug because I'm a little bit weird, but I will hug you more than likely.
Right. I am in the minority of the guys who are like, I'll hug anybody, but not everyone's like that. So please ask for consent.
Always. Here's the thing too. I'm not going to do I've left some resources down in the comment section of this. You can find the resources. You just have to want to find them. You know what I mean? And there's multiple resources. There's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There's different organizations that you can contact. There's therapists that you can seek. Go down to your local gym and buy a membership for a month and just, work on there's different things that you can do. None of them are the right one. They're all the right one. There's no wrong way unless it's like self-destructive behavior. Right. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get off here. We're going to be running into Paige show. I promise that it's going to be much more enjoyable conversation. We might touch a little bit more on the mental health stuff, but we're going to try to see where things are going because I want to talk video games with Kidd Riot a little bit. So
I got some fun stuff I want to talk about. So.
Perfect. Plugskis here. You can, of course, find me on Instagram at DWobs Card Shop. Just look up some combination of space, Rudo, Riot, somewhere on Google. You will find Kidd Riot, some combination of that. Sometimes maybe change the I to a 1. Who knows? He's pretty easy to find. I
thought you were going to say pretty easy. I was like, that's accurate too.
Well, fair. Brother, you can go on over to why did I say brother? Why I said brother there? It's really funny. Brother. You can, of course, go on over to MadBashStudios.com. That's a good way to support us. The best way to support us, though, Patreon.com/MadBash Studios. Hopefully, we see everyone this Saturday at MadBash Wrestling. The gang wrestles for the troops. If you're not on the Patreon, I said that backwards. If you are on the Patreon, we're going to roll into Paige show. But if you are not on the Patreon, we will see you down the road on some form of content.